Lagavulin was once described as the Prince of Islays. Maybe they described itself as that. But it really, like all these smoky Islay whiskies, in the days when blended Scotch held sway, I mean, it still held sway up until today, but the single malt whiskies began to take off really only in the 1980s. And Lagavulin 16 was first introduced as one of the 6 classic malts by United Distillers, now Diageo, in 88, 89, and it's interesting, Laurie, because the general feeling was that these smoky whiskies, blenders describe them as condimental, like pepper and salt. And so a very small amount in a blend will give a huge
change
impact,
complexion, massively.
And they were always described as an acquired taste. So you've got Lafroig, you've got Lagavulin, Lafroig, Ardbeg. Well, you couldn't get Ardbeg very much in those days because it's been much closed. But the Kalila, you couldn't get Kalila at all. It was all used blending Beaumont, and so on. They were condimental whiskies in the perception of the blenders.
Yep.
And so therefore, not the sort of thing that malt whiskey drinkers wanted.
Was it top dressers? Is that the term for blends where you just add, almost like a cherry on a cake? To add
exactly. I mean, a very small amount, 2%, 5%, to give a smoky influence in the blend. Lagavulin was bottled at 12 years old in very, very small quantities in days gone by, and but was not generally known, generally appreciated.
Yeah, this was kind of was it 70s, I think. There's a 12-year-old with a sort of oval white label. I think they had a 15-year-old for a while in the 1980s.
Did they? Well, you're the expert on these.
I think it was in like a ceramic
flagon. The closure was not terribly sound.
Yes, yeah.
So the ceramic flasks and things.
Yeah, my former employer was an auction house, and it was great because there were so many bottles of Lagavulin 15 would arrive unsealed, and we'd be like, oh well, we'll dispose of it for the customer. It was fantastic. But yeah, the 16-year-old has been a product since the launch of the classic malts, kind of late 1980s.
And it's been a bit of a stick to beat their own backs because it took off almost immediately and with justifiable. I mean, I think that the Lagavulin 16 is really it's an almost perfect product. When you taste this one, you can see. But the 6 classic malts were Glenkinchie, Cragganmore, Dalwhinnie, Talisker, what have I missed? Lagavulin and Oban.
Oban, yes.
And this range of flavours, it was a brilliant idea to expose to consumers that malt whiskies were not all the same. There was a certain amount of doubt about Lagavulin because of the historical feeling that the smoky whiskey is a bit difficult. So you've got to you enter through blended Scotch, then you go through Speyside, and then you go to the smoky whiskies.
You graduate to smoky whiskies almost.
Except in Asia, the Northern European markets in particular, but Europe, and to a degree America early on, but Europe just took to it. This mature smokiness, they'd never come across it. And those who didn't like whiskey liked Lagavulin in particular, and the smoky whiskies in general. You know? It really turned the whole thinking about malt whiskey on its head.
For me, it's always been such a distinctive whiskey. I think, it's one of those ones, if you're at a whiskey bar and somebody on the other side of the room, 20 yards away, you can go, somebody's having Lagavulin 16 and you'll give them a knowing nod.
Now, you see, obviously it's smoky, but there's a sort of perfumed smoke, which I often describe as like Labsang Souchong tea.
Okay.
And then beneath that there's a depth to it, which is sort of It's sort of caramel.
Does that depth come from the age, do you think? Obviously 16 years is a fair amount of time to be in casks.
It's got a sort of depth of character, which they often describe, and I've picked it up, but I'm not getting it just now, but as sort of red fruits. There's a fruitiness beneath the smoke. I mean, frankly, you know, it's for me the most complex of Islay whiskies. Oh, I'm dying to taste this.
Let's won't hold you back any longer. Let's give it a try. Yeah, still hits the spot.
Great mouthfeel, you know, viscous, but not oily, but viscous, sweet, a fruity complex. As I say, they talk about red fruits. It's that sort of thing. It's not acidic fruits, but nor is it cooked fruits. And then this smoky finish, which is fragrant. It's like incense. You know,
Do you think there's a touch of European oak influence then there? Obviously,
well, I think so.
Yeah, and it's got a lovely colour to it, and we're not sure whether that's from colouring or from the age. But
and I've never been able to find out. The implication is that
sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. I would imagine.
Yeah, might be. Yeah. But there's also an extraordinary consistency. I mean, this expression, this 16 is exactly like any other that I remember. It's an absolute putty, linseed oil.
Okay.
Yep, that's another trigger for me. For Lagavulin.
Yeah, there's not really any other single malt that gets close, is there? Obviously, you mentioned Bowmore, you mentioned Ardbeg, Lafroig. They're all big and they're all smoky, but in a very different way.
They are.
Yeah, there's so much to it. How many times have you had Lagavulin 16 throughout your career? Dozens? Hundreds? Who knows?
Thousands.
I know you.
Thousands.
And it still gives you so much joy, which I suppose is a sign of,
gives me
of a stunning dram.
huge pleasure. And that's why, as I say, you know, if I'm lonely in a hotel in China and if they've got Lagavulin 16, that's what I'd go to. And I'd be taken back to Islay and my happy times at Lagavulin Distillery.
Spectacular.
Before I was hanged, I'd probably, if they asked me what dram would I want, I'd say probably Lagavulin 16.
Yeah, a pint of Lagavulin 16 before you go. Why not? Enjoy it for a while. No, it's a stunning dram, and I'm not surprised.